I want to start things off just by talking about the product itself. Acumatica, I'll do a little bit of review and then I'm going to do some demonstrations that talk a little bit about the 21 R2 release. And then I'll also introduce some of the upcoming ideas for 22 R1. We're right between releases now. As you know, we'd have a 6-month release cycle. For those of you who are not completely familiar with Acumatica, this is our mission statement and what we're trying to do. We're a technology company. Cloud computing is what we made our bet on. We, developed our whole entire platform using web standards. And the whole point of doing that was to make it so that businesses could digitally transform themselves. So you took, some older school folks that were running green screens and older ERP systems, and you convert them to a web-based system, which is really the way everything's running these days. HTML5, web services, all of those things that help interact with customers in a new and better way, as well as to work with your vendors in a new and better way. So it's kind of like when the internet started. It was, one person started and it wasn't very useful, but now that everybody's there, the full benefits you get from transforming your business is getting everybody in your ecosystem involved. And our pricing model, as well as our web-based application, is what's designed to make all that happen. Now, one of my favorite slides is this one that you see here. It talks about how we work as a company. So we start here with this technology stack that you see. And that's built by build a platform off of this. This has all of our things, our security systems, our reporting engines. It has the ability to interact with mobile devices, our mobile player. All that's maintained by a platform team. Within Acumatica, that's a separate development team. And then we also have our applications teams. So our platform team has our application team as customers. And the benefit of having our information created this way and the system set up this way is that all the applications that you see, the general ledger, the AP, the AR, the sales orders, the purchase orders, all those different modules that we build on top of that, the business logic for that is open source. That makes the community extremely strong because all that information, as well as the platform, is available to both connected and embedded solutions. A lot of the partners that you're going to meet and greet and hear from over the next couple of days are part of this. So it really is a strength of our situation, which provides a future-proof platform that everybody can work from. They can tweak existing things we have or build completely new ones depending on how it works. And there's different ways of integrating with the system. You can use the framework and build your own module that looks and feels and uses the same database as Acumatica. Or you can actually go ahead and use our extremely powerful APIs, both SOAP and REST based, to interact with and extend those APIs to interact with the database as well. Now, there's a few things that are critical to Acumatica, and we do this and we use these to get kind of the core out to our customers. So we have several things that are built into Acumatica. These are integrations that we maintain. And we're always introducing new ones so that you can get the most out of Acumatica for things that are core to the system. So in addition to the partners adding in and helping out with this, we provide some of these that are maintained by the Acumatica support teams so that those are all there. Now, one of the ones that I'd like to highlight and kind of the overall theme of what we're talking about today is the ability to continue and to innovate and add more things to our platform. So in 21 release 2, we introduced the PDF annotator. The PDF annotator is something that allows people to interact with Adobe. So Adobe Annotator is something that allows you to draw and make comments on a PDF document. And that's highly important because people need that in order to avoid creating multiple copies of different things that are on the system. And that's, as I said, is going to be completely integrated. So let's take a look a little bit about what that's going to look like. So at this point, we're going to go to this incoming document screen. That's going to get us started. And the incoming document screen is something also introducing our AI ML technologies. I'm going to drag an invoice that I've created onto this screen. Everything, the upload seems fairly slow, but there. So in the process of doing this, you'll see that I've now uploaded a PDF document. Now, as part of our AP, or as part of our AP document recognition, I can click the Recognize button. This is going to go out to an AI ML engine. The benefit of being AI ML agnostic is we can pick different ones depending on the documents and processes in place. Within Acumatica, I'll get to it on the next slide that I show. There are several different things that we do with artificial intelligence, machine learning, and we always use the best one for our particular benefit. So you'll see that it's brought in this document. Within here, if I wanted to change something, perhaps I wanted to enter a description, I could go in here and, click on some items that you see here and add that to there. In this case, I reverse the order just to keep it interesting. So I'll go ahead and save and continue that so we can get to the PDF annotation part. This is going to automatically create a bill and adjustment in Acumatica. And the first demo glitch is it did not pull in the project. If I had attached it to the purchase order that was there, it would have automatically done that. Now, once you go and on the community site, there's the ability to download a customization for the PDF annotator. And you'll see that it creates this new sidebar called PDF files. So I can open that up and it's going to show me this scanned version of that invoice. Now, the interesting part is, as an approver of this document, I may notice that something's gone, I may want to double check it, or maybe the person that loads it in wants to do something. So I can select all these different things you see here. Maybe I'll highlight, for example, this thing. Let's try something a little better here. Let me make that bigger. And we'll clear it out. And we'll see how I do with there we go, much better. So I can say, check this value. And because maybe for some reason, we're not sure if that's something that that was part of the purchase order. Maybe it seems too high or something. I could add text in there. I can, highlight things as I need to, and then I can go ahead and save that. All this is saved automatically as a version of this file that you see. So we don't have a new file that's created. It simply creates a new version of that. So this is one of the ideas of new products that we've gone ahead and we've introduced as part of the new integrated things that we've offered with the system. So let me switch back. That's a little bit about the Adobe Annotator, but I also wanted to show the future a little bit of what we're looking for in terms of AI and ML. In terms of that, we have all these different, the power of the cloud basically allows us to work with all these different AI ML engines to produce a bunch of different things that will benefit people. The idea is not to replace users or put people out of work. The idea is to make routine work happen a little more efficiently. And the routine work can be such things as scanning through and looking at a bunch of documents that are not necessarily, it's a big list and a computer is much better at doing it. It also could be AI, ML type things with regards to learning after repetitive things. So the person doesn't have to scan through many things and build algorithms around it. The AI, ML engines can do all of that as well. So keep your eyes open. We're going to continue to innovate and launch several of those things in the coming months and releases. Speaking of releases, I want to talk a little bit about release planning too. One of the things that we do is we take the community of Acumatica very seriously when it comes to preparing and packaging new features. And you'll see we get a large number of these incoming ideas. At the top of this list is the ideas portal. Right now, there's over 3,000 ideas there. Now, as a result, we can't obviously produce every 6 months we have a release. We can't produce 3,000 new development items each release. So we prioritize these things based on business cases, based on resources, uh, other commitments that we've made, and we basically funnel all that down so that we package things into a release. And as I mentioned, we're between two releases right now, where we've just launched 21R2 and we're getting ready for 22R1 coming up. So all the you may be hearing from the Acumatica product managers and product teams for all the new exciting goodies coming up in the basic springtime, the March time frame. This is a quick shout out to our ideas portal. The product managers continually review this and feed these ideas into the product, into the semi-annual release process. It's a two-way communication, though. Communication path one is you telling us what you need, things that you're interested in. Communication path number two is us telling you what things are planned and giving lists. So we have different things that you see. For example, this one's gathering feedback. That means we need some things from you. Shipped obviously means it's packaged and sent into a release. There's a thing called planned, which exists here. An item that's planned means we've scheduled it for a particular release. So it means you can count on that. It's going to be happening in the near future. There's also another one called shortlisted. That means we heard you, community, we know what's important, we want to get it done, but we haven't figured out how to slot it into a release, either because the resources are not available to build it right now, there's some open requirements, or because it just needs to be prioritized with some additional voting. So those are all a little bit of feedback about the ideas portal, and thanks again for those of you who have gone out and voted on that. Continuous innovation is an important. I've been here multiple years. I remember Acumatica 1.0. This might be some of you in the audience that remember that as well. But we've gone ahead and taken several steps since that process. So there's constant updates. So like in 21R2, you'll see some new things. The DAX schema browser is one that we heard. Tasks from business events. There was a member of the community, I'll call him a vocal member of the community, who requested that, and we got it into the release. It was a fantastic idea that allows you to manage workflows much more efficiently. We've also got email grid, some of our CRM system and marketing automation tools. We're starting this. Multiple base currencies from the sales processes we've heard from partners and resellers, as well as from customers who are in different places. We've heard very important to you as well. And we've just recently put in. And then our distribution edition, upsell, cross-sell, and substitute items was another one. So ones that I just want to highlight are be and initiated by the community. I've got another slide that goes back a little bit further. I don't want anything here. It's just an interesting view of how things have shaped up over the time. So some of the remaining talk about introduced in 21 release 2. The PDF annotator, as I showed earlier, that's not part of the release. That was a customization package that was part of our integrations, and you can get that via the portal, the community portal. But these are the actual ones that we're introducing as part of our newest release. So I'm going to start with global financials. Global financials is important because we that they have many different it's globalization is critical. And in the past, you were able to buy and sell to offshore people. So your vendors and customers, you could have different currencies. You could do business with somebody in different countries with no problem. But what happens if you open an office in that particular country and want to have your own set of books in that country? That's where global financials comes into effect. Now, the benefit of global financials is that you could always do this in Acumatica. You could set up two tenants, and you could have the different tenants interact with one another in a process. But it required some additional setup, and the cost of doing that was a little bit higher than it would be if you could all include it in the same tenant. So we're working towards a situation where you can share vendors, customers, inventory items, centralize approvals, get buy-sell transactions across related entities. Now to do that, we've introduced this idea of company groups that you see here. The company groups give you additional visibility and reporting options. You'll note here that a company does not have to be part of a company group, but company groups help make that process a little bit more efficient. So instead of I want to just show a little bit of the screen where that would be, and show how that sets up. So let's go back over to here. Wrong one. Let's try a different guy. Let me go to my local computer, which is probably being taxed heavily by many things, but we'll see what we can do. Come on, local computer. All right, so to start things off with global financials, let's talk about ledgers. So everything in Acumatica, you can have multiple ledgers. You can have reporting ledgers. You can have actual ledgers. These are all things that make it into our reporting tools, our real-time financial reporting tools that you see. So I created in this new demo set something called the Canadian ledger. And you'll notice that the base currency is Canadian dollar. So this would be a US company that expanded across the border and now has a Canadian entity. Up here, you can see that I have different pieces and components to it. And if I drill into Canada, you'll see that I have my base currency. I also have a couple of branches set up that I can drill into, and all these different areas are there. Now, I created an access role for my users that are only in Canada, so that's all they can see. So we'll get into why that's important either as well. So that now I've got my Canadian company set up, and I've got my administrator who's able to access all of these different things. But if I want to, I can pull over an employee called Brady Sullivan. I didn't go into the employees screen because I've got a lot of things I want to show. Now, one of the benefits of this is Brady can go in and he can enter a timesheet. So you'll notice that he's based in Toronto, and he goes in, he's going to go create a time card. So he goes into here into his employee time cards, and he's going to enter a new one. To keep things simple, I normalize it, save it, and I submit it for approval. Down here in the approvals, Maxwell Baker, for those of you who are familiar with the sales demonstration data, you know him as the administrator. Now over here, back in the US entity, you can see that my approvals, the messages, the people, all the different notifications, that no longer has to be duplicated because everything's in the same tenant that you see here. So I can go in and I can approve Brady's time entry sheet. And over here, you'll see if I do a quick refresh that it's been approved. So all these things can happen across borders. And most importantly, as I say, the key point here is that everything can be set up very easily without having to go in and enter all the data into multiple different systems and tenants. Another area, let's look at more transactional. So I'm going to go to my customers. Within Canada, I have visibility into all my Canadian customers. I'm going to look at this company called ABC Canada. I added ABC Canada because there's in this financial area, you'll see there's visibility settings. So this person can do transactions back and forth just within the Canadian entities. You'll notice that he has balances and everything else in Canadian dollars. In my billing tab, you'll notice that he's part of a parent account that's basically hosted in US dollars as part of the global entity. So it allows kind of a roll up of different entities. Now, I can't consolidate a balance in two different currencies. So that's one thing that we have not enabled yet. But you can roll all these guys together to get a singular view of what happens. Now, earlier today, I want to keep things moving. I created something where I went in and I automatically created a sales order for my Canadian entity. And the reason I did that is I want to show the impact on the statements and on how things are set up. So let's go back to my US entity, and I'm going to show some reporting that spans these things. So I have a couple reports that I've created. I'm going to go to the profit and loss report. And we're going to go ahead and run this report, and you'll see now there's the ability up to have a consolidated total in basically real time. All the Canadian transactions. So if I go in and I click direct to switch tables finance grant.
Doug, we're having a little bit of trouble with hearing you. I don't know if it's your bandwidth with running the.
Based on you can pull in and you can control are going all profit and everything on my end. How's it? Is it going to get better?
That's much better right now.
Stop sharing for a second and reshare. Okay, we'll keep our fingers crossed that nothing goes on in the office that monopolizes the bandwidth.
So that's a little bit about some of the things and how the global financials can be set up. Now, the other thing that I'd like to talk about, and I'm not going to have time to actually take you through a demonstration of it, is cross-company transactions. So I showed a customer and how the customers all relate to one another. But in addition, my Canadian and US entity can transact together, and Acumatica automatically creates different things. So for example, if I create a purchase order in Canada, an equal and opposite sales order is created in the US. If I ship that sales order out of the US, a purchase receipt can automatically be created in Canada. Once that happens, I can also create the invoice. After I ship it, I can create the invoice and you get an equal and opposite AP bill. Saves a lot of time. And this also works across currencies right now too, so that it's all part of what's available. In addition to making the demonstration that I showed with multiple base currencies, we've offered some benefits for those with, you can enable Canadian features with a Canadian entity by simply clicking a checkbox on the Enable Disable Features screen. And we're working on several things in the UK as well to make all these localizations possible to make it easy to do transactions. So that's going to wrap up the global financials part. Now, another thing that's very important to our customers is being able to sell more. So one of the things that you're seeing make its way into Acumatica's solution set are all these features that you see that help you sell more sell better. Upsells and cross sells, item substitutions, those are part of our distribution edition. CRM has integrated marketing and email tracking, as well as support efforts through the Teams integration. Teams integration is not quite available yet, but you should expect to see it on our community site by the end of the year. I want to do a short demo. Once again, there's many things that I could show, but we'll have to keep things to fairly minimal area. So let's see if I can get quickly through here. Let me log out of local. That might have been causing some of my bandwidth issues. And we'll log into a different site. I'm going to also log out of this local and shut it down to try and get things going a little faster. And one second. Might have to skip this demo if we don't get the login I wanted. Let's try one more time. All right, so we're going to skip that demonstration temporarily. I will come back when that server wakes up. Benefit of live demos. You never know what's going to happen. Oh, there it goes. As soon as I threaten to cancel it, decided it would behave for me. All right, so one of the things that we introduced in 21R1 was the ability to sell more by making different features through upsells, cross-sells, and other things. Looks like somebody reset my server on this one. Bear with me one second. So within the stock items area is where I can set these sort of things up. So I'm going to go to a stock item, and I'm going to enter some golf drivers. So I'll see that over here I have a premium driver, a standard driver, and this Wilson driver. I'm going to go into our standard driver, and we'll talk about how we can sell more goods by showing this capability to upsell and cross-sell. Over here, you'll see a new tab called Related Items. Within Related Items, we can add cross-sells, upsells, and substitutes. I'm going to have an upsell to a premium driver. So let's see if I can add him in here. And we need one of him. We'll say that the innovation occurred just a little bit ago, and we'll go ahead and save that. You also have some options that you can set here. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to help salespeople on the fly make choices regarding sales, what they can sell to customers. So let's go to sales orders. Open up a new sales order in a screen here. And once that comes up, I'll go ahead and go to an order. I think I'm going to use one that's already created because I'm definitely running short of time. So we'll use one here that we already have set up for the Marina Golf Club. And you'll see I've got my Wilson driver on here. One of the things you'll notice is if I try and ship this, I'm going to get an error because we're out of stock. But one of the things about this Wilson driver that's nice is there's some substitute items that I can substitute. So I can go ahead and add in my substitute driver, and that'll help me get the sale that I immediately need to make that happen. Now, once I've got the regular driver, you'll notice that this button is still lit. The reason is I can do a number of things. I can do upsells and cross-sells. So let's say I want to talk to my person about this new driver that we have that's a little more expensive, okay, a lot more expensive than my current driver, and I can upsell that. In addition, I can go out here and I can go and maybe sell them some golf tees while we're at it and add and close those. So you'll see that everything is enabling my salesperson to be more efficient. And most importantly, in addition to my salesperson being more efficient, it's going to mean that my e-commerce system, a lot of the things you just saw that I did are naturally occurring tasks in an e-commerce system. So all those things are possible as well. Now, the last thing I'd like to say about in sales and making things a little easier is if we go back to our marketing lists in Acumatica, the benefit of having the integrated CRM isn't only that I get to go in and sell more from once I've got a salesperson on the line, but I can create dynamic lists and create these list members that have purchased my old driver and easily go ahead and send them emails. You saw this demonstrated at our recent summit. So if I have a marketing email, I have emails I can send out where I have an email that you see here that's a campaign that's all ready to go. And in this particular case, I'm using a new integration with SendGrid so I can track when people click this button and track when people open my messages to gauge the success or failure of my email systems. So all those are very important features that got added. From a support perspective, you can use Microsoft Teams integration to go in and automatically transact with people inside and outside your organization. So that's one of the new exciting ones that we're looking for as well. Now, the problem is I'm just about out of time and I don't want to run too much into the event. I have several things around platform innovation that I wanted to share. So I might just talk to some of these. There's a new visual workflow engine that's going to be really key to people who want to innovate without having to write code. This is very important in terms of making quick changes to workflows in Acumatica. That new feature that somebody suggested to automatically create tasks is one of the things. And it's also the ability to go in and you can update your workflow engine to make all these things appear as well. So I'm just going to do a fast demonstration of how some of these visual workflow items work. So let's go ahead. We're going to log into this system. I already have this customized. And one of the customizations I have is when a purchase receipt is received, I added a new step. I want to show the process of going into the customization engine and making these changes that are very easy. So I'm going to go into customization projects. Hopefully we'll be able to open this one called Visual Workflow. And I will maximize that. Here's the screen that I've already tailored with a unique workflow where I can inspect the receipt. So I'm going to go into this particular workflow here. And you can see that there's some information here that I can easily change, but maybe I prefer a diagram view where you can see that I go to my inspection. I added this inspection step that's between what normally is balanced and released, and it can add some additional steps to my process. If needed, I can add another state to this. So we'll call this state, I don't know, we'll call it quarantine. Maybe there's some issue with something or broken, or maybe it needs to do that. So now I've created a new, what we call state in Acumatica, which happens to be the status field in this situation of the purchase receipt. Now, this is not very interesting if it's just sitting over here by itself. So maybe I want to go in and edit my failed state. And I'm going to add a new action to that called quarantine. Myself a nice difficult word to spell and probably get it wrong. I'm going to go in and add that new state. Now that I've done that, I can build a transition between failed and quarantine. Oh, it's actually, I didn't quite do that right. You'll see I dragged and dropped it to this hold area, but I really want that to be going from this. I want this to be if they select quarantine from the trigger. So I'm going to go fix that.
Doug, if you could wrap up in just a minute, because we're running over into the next session. Sorry about that.
No problem. So then I'll go ahead, and then once I publish it, adds that new step, and it's once again, it's all done without very much coding, as you can see. Now, a couple other features that we wanted to talk about, industry editions. We introduced a visual schedule. The industry editions are innovating as well as our core product. This is a demo I won't show, but it shows how you can go in using this new visual scheduler and reschedule things to make sure that the sales people are able to sell effectively by giving a promise date of when things can be produced. So I just want to have a couple slides with a quick review. 2 major releases per year, the prioritization processes I went through, and of course the ever important community site where all your ideas get tabulated and put into the next product. There's the review of their product vision. And with that, I'm a little bit over, but I'm happy to turn it back over to Cole, Jeff, and Darcy, who will take you on to the next session.